Hey everybody, I'm Adam, and this is Think Club. Is there a gender pay gap? Are engineering classrooms dens of misogyny? I have a really great clip from Christina Hoff Sommers debating intersectional feminist Roxane Gray. Actually, it's Roxane Gay. I am going to play a short clip here just to start us off.
And it just shows how rigid, as someone in the audience pointed out, the patriarchy is, and that even when women are at the top of their game, quite literally, it's still not enough for them to be paid an equitable wage.
So I want to stay.
So this goes a bit longer. This debate is totally awesome. So I have some clips here from the debate. I'm going to add some commentary too. I also went and pulled out I went to the engineering page, the Engineering Academy page at Stanford University. And I don't know, this just, for some reason, I don't know, this doesn't look like a den of misogyny to me. So obviously I was wondering immediately if this was an actual Stanford class picture or some kind of stock photography. It's not stock photography. I reverse image searched it. So I don't know. This just doesn't look like the den of misogyny Roxane Gay is making it out to be. So this is another perfect example of the morality binds and blinds principle. Roxane Gay here is embedded in a community of intersectional feminists who are really, they can't look at this kind of evidence objectively. So I'll play a little bit of the clip here, and we can examine it together from a hopefully unbiased perspective.
You've mentioned that the gender pay gap is a myth.
Now, I want you to pay close attention to Roxane Gay's body language here, because I mean, it says it all. It's pretty hilarious. We're treading on her sacred ground here. The moral community of the intersectional feminist is protecting the rights of the oppressed. Here they are. Here are those oppressed people that we're all protecting.
What do you mean by that?
Well, what I mean is that the idea that on average, a man is paid 25 cents more, 23 cents more for the same work as a woman, there's just no evidence of that.
Okay.
Can I explain why? Can I explain?
We get eye rolls from Roxane Gay. The audience lashes out. They even show some shots of the audience here, which is great. I don't know where she's speaking.
And jeering at an idea or clapping at an idea doesn't make it true or false. What matters is the evidence. So let's look at the evidence. And even feminist economists agree with this. If you look at the gap in the workplace, what you find is you have to account for relevant differences and take into account variables. For example, the wage gap in the United States it varies, but people usually say, women earn 76 cents for every dollar.
White women earn 76 cents on the dollar.
Yes, and the higher
White women. She wants to make it clear that it's a race, that it is a racism issue here at Stanford Engineering School. It's a huge race issue. Hold on, let me see how many. Okay, we got 1, 2, 3. I see 3 white women, 4. I'm gonna say out of this crowd, I see 4 white women. Not a representative sample. I want you guys to know. I just, it could be marketing. They could have pulled a bunch of people off the street that aren't actually going to Stanford University. Stanford University. Not only that, I went to the engineering school. That's going to become relevant pretty quick here.
highest earners are Asian men, and the gap between Asian men and men and Asian men and white men is bigger.
Oh, this poor girl. Look, look at this poor girl. This poor girl. Oh, no. We're treading on sacred ground here. Please make it stop.
Than the gap between men and women. So why would that be? Is it because there's a
Roxane. The expression on Roxane's face is just priceless. She's like, "Oh no, we know in our tribe, we know the truth, and the truth doesn't need to have evidence on its side because it's the truth."
the system is rigged in favor of Asian men. Well, actually, what you do are the proper controls. Like how many years of education did they have? What did they study in college? You do that with men and women, and the gap begins to narrow. And is it because employers are cheating them out of their salary? That we don't find evidence.
See, I don't deny that every single woman has had some interaction with a man that they felt the man wronged them. But to turn that into all men and systematic oppression because one guy made you feel bad, it's not good for society. It's not good for you. It's not healthy.
For what we find evidence is that men and women on average make different decisions. For example, college majors, the highest paying college majors like electrical engineering or petroleum engineering, you find far more men in that major. For women, you find a lot going in.
Poor Roxane. Look at Roxane's face. Roxane is just parched lips. She's just she's in a bad state here.
The women going into psychology, sociology.
Oh, head shake. Oh, we got a head shake. Oh, she's not happy about this. Christina Hoff Sommers has brought evidence to the debate. Please make it stop.
Early childhood education. Those jobs may be very fulfilling, but they don't pay as much. And they're just, as I said, more women.
Oh my God. Roxane is so unhappy about this. So unhappy.
But you're ignoring...
I would like to bring, because you mentioned data and stats, so let me show you something. This is from the World Economic Forum. This is an extensive study, and this is a 10-year study, and there is definitely...
The audience is cheering the worldwide study. Watch what Christina Hoff Sommers does.
This is obviously the summary, but I've read the whole study. It seemed to really suggest, and World Economic Forum is an apolitical organization, it's clear that there is some sort of a gap, and it is that 20 cents mark globally. So
yeah, this is what the feminists love to do. They love to cherry pick data to make their sacred ideology cohere. They love to take women out of these places in the world where they're completely oppressed and throw them in with the data so they can average that pay gap way up.
Now you're going global or the United States?
Global, absolutely.
All right, because there's a different story. In different countries, it's different. But if we can understand the United States, we can understand other places. I didn't deny there are places that have systemic bias. There are countries that are absolutely patriarchal. The United States is...
Roxane shakes her head and goes, wait a second. All countries are patriarchal.
The United States is...
Come on,
is a society where women and men have achieved equality before the law, and if you're
Roxane completely objects to the fact that the United States is not a racist land where no one ever gets an opportunity unless they are a white straight male.
Employer,
there's all kinds of data out there, but the pay gap is not under dispute. And there are all kinds of reasons why women don't necessarily go into petroleum engineering, and those reasons have everything to do with misogyny and the fact that women are not allowed to succeed in these fields.
They're not allowed to succeed in these fields. Are you kidding me? I mean, I went and looked at many of the top universities, and it's obvious they have a push to get women in these fields. Like, I don't know how they're incentivizing them, but this is crazy talk. If you're a woman that wants to go into engineering, people are going to throw money at you.
Incredibly difficult to go into engineering.
It is difficult.
I have some expertise in this. My dad's an engineer, and I went to...
So Roxane has an anecdote about how her dad, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, was in engineering, and it was all men.
An engineering university to get my PhD, where it was 77% male. And so we have all of these systemic biases that push women into certain fields and that make other fields incredibly inhospitable. Like, I teach at a state university, so everyone's salaries are easy to find. And so even when you control for education and pretty much everyone has a PhD, within fields, men make more. And so the pay gap...
Now notice she's not citing any study whatsoever. She's just listing off her own lived experience, which is quite useful, quite useful. My lived experience just from visiting the Stanford Summer Engineering Academy page looks like it's a pretty diverse crowd. I'm not sure that it's exactly a den of misogyny here.
It's not this imagined thing. The pay gap is very real here in Australia. It's real in the United States. It's
Okay, so we know they're in Australia now.
real in Japan. And we have to start demanding that this be a thing of the past, and suggesting that, oh, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and that's why women make less, is just so insulting.
Yeah, who is suggesting that these days? Who is pulling back to the whole men are from Mars and women are from Venus argument? It's like, it's complete delusion here.
And it doesn't take into account other things like race and ethnicity. So while 77 cents to the dollar is the statistic in the United States for white women, 54 cents is what Latina women make on the dollar. And so we have to also look at how women from non-white races and ethnicities are dealing with an even greater pay gap. And it just cannot be wished away with this idea that the gap is imaginary. It isn't.
So how would you answer, say, for example, I want to pick an American example. The American women's soccer team is rated #1 in the world, and the American men's team is...
I'm going to jump forward a little bit here because I don't exactly think this is relevant.
It's literally a pay gap. So
they just talk a little bit about the pay gap in men and women's sports, but it's an elite field, so
that's the pay.
Here's her response though to that pay gap in sports.
One.
I mean, it's literally a pay gap. That's the pay gap. Like, who cares what the reasons are? The pay gap is literally there. And actually, professional sports is a really good example of the pay gap, because women in the WNBA generally during the off season come over to Europe, Australia, China to play ball because they have to supplement their incomes, versus men who...
That's important, because you have to know that the women are oppressed. They have to actually play year-round because these elite athletes are completely oppressed by following their dream.
Who are making these $140 million 4-year contracts. And the soccer team example is actually really one of the most stark examples of the pay gap, and it's one of the most egregious because the women's team is so successful and so popular, and the men's team, the U.S. football team, they can't play at all. They're not good. And
so instead of providing any kind of statistical data, she uses anecdotes again, and uses... She just blanketly insults men that they can't play.
Yet, because they're men, they get pay. And in fact, the women's team has tried various forms of striking.
So the argument is the men just play badly because they're men and they can get away with it. This is feminist theory, guys.
Especially in the past year, to little avail. And it just shows how rigid, as someone in the audience pointed out, the patriarchy is. And that even when women are at the top of their game, quite literally, it's still not enough for them to be paid an equitable wage.
So I want to stay...
I just will say one thing, but with soccer, it's possibly... we'd have to look into it, and there may be an explanation.
Christina Hoff Sommers wants to look into it. She wants to actually examine the data, and Roxane is just floored by it. No, you can't look at the. Come on, why would you question my authority?
But I'll tell you, men's basketball.
Heavy sigh there. Notice that heavy sigh. Oh my God, this woman is questioning everything I'm saying.
Women's basketball, they're not. It's leagues apart. I mean,
She's shaking her head. Roxane is totally shaking her head. This is a total affront to anything that she is saying. This is complete disrespect for her. That's exactly the look on her face.
Idea that
it's leagues apart because the NBA has been around for much longer and has gotten so much more material support than the WNBA.
So she's saying that the men's league gets more material support, and that's why they're successful. Well, why do they get more material support, I wonder?
The WNBA continues to struggle for funding because people don't think when people are interested in women's basketball. It's misogyny at play.
It's complete misogyny. It's not that people are more interested in men's sports. It's that they hate women. It's the only obvious answer.
Not that it's a different game. It's that people don't care.
Game. The male basketball players, they play it's a Promethean, kind of competition.
Look at the eye rolls. The eye rolls are great. Just facts and evidence just totally bounce off these people. They're in this. It's a morality binds and blinds situation. They're totally in this bubble.
Look, you may like it to watch women's basketball. Most people don't. They can hardly get an audience in the United States. And they say, oh, it's not enough advertising.
I'm sorry, but lesbians love the shit out of women's basketball.
See, and then she picks a group, lesbians, who are a tiny population. I don't know that you could run a league, devote all the resources you need to run a league for that tiny group.
The Los Angeles Sparks generally sell out their games. All of it, there is not a more devoted fan base. There is plenty of audience for women's basketball teams.
From religion,
So I'll go ahead and leave it there. I'm curious your thoughts on this. Obviously, I know your thoughts on this. It's hilarious, but this clip is the same morality binds and blinds principle that I've been articulating on this channel forever. These people are immune to logic, reason, and evidence because logic, reason, and evidence goes against their sacred understanding of the world, that we have to fight for the rights of the oppressed, and women and people of color are those oppressed people. Although, I don't know, this Stanford class doesn't really strike me as oppressed. So I'll leave it there. Leave me your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Hey everybody, thanks for watching my video. I'm going to be posting daily content here on my personal channel. My main channel, Think Club, is still demonetized, and I am working on getting that fixed. If you have suggestions for topics, you can leave those in the comments below. The amazing artwork that you're seeing here was done by Steph. She is a fantastic artist, and she's working on a graphic novel that I wrote, and we will both be crowdfunding soon. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.
Well, first of all, if you don't have a purpose, it isn't that your life becomes neutral in a meaningless sense. It's that your life becomes characterized by unbearable suffering. Because the baseline condition of life is something like unbearable suffering.